You know MrBeast for these huge, insane social experiments, right? Well, his latest competition, it took everything to a completely different level. He literally trapped 50 of the internet's biggest names inside a giant cube with one simple, chaotic rule: be the last one to leave. And what were they fighting for? A cool $1 million, a truly life-changing amount of money that guaranteed every single person was going to be playing for keeps. But it wasn't just about the cash. We're talking about a who's who of the streaming universe. All these massive egos, long-standing rivalries, and super fragile alliances all crammed into one box. It was a perfect recipe for absolute mayhem. So that's what we're going to do today. We're going to break down the anatomy of this whole competition. We'll go challenge by challenge and really see what this spectacle tells us about strategy, psychology, and honestly, modern entertainment itself. Okay, so the first challenge came right out of the gate, and it wasn't about skill, it wasn't about endurance. No, it was a brutal, immediate test of where you stood on the social ladder. The rules here were just engineered for pure drama. I mean, think about it. With one single move, MrBeast forced everyone to publicly show their cards, to declare their enemies. All of a sudden, the game wasn't about how good you were. It was about managing your reputation just enough to not become a target. And almost immediately, the first, most basic strategy just pops up. Simple revenge. You shoot me, I shoot you back. It's an easy rule to follow when everything's chaotic, and it instantly created these little webs of rivalry. But then, you start to see a more calculated strategy take hold. Some players began thinking long-term. Why waste your shot on simple revenge when you could take out a major threat to winning the whole thing? The goals shifted, right? It became about eliminating the strongest competition. And this brings us to the third, and maybe the most powerful factor in the mix: pure, unpredictable chaos. A stray shot, a bad aim, a ricochet, and suddenly even the most careful plans just go up in smoke, creating grudges that weren't even intentional to begin with. So what's the key takeaway here? Well, from the very first challenge, it was crystal clear this wasn't just about skill. It was about perception. Your reputation became your only defense in a high-stakes game of public opinion. All right, let's move on to the next challenge, because this is where the whole game just pivots. It moves away from social politics and becomes this high-stakes test of nerve, risk assessment, and really clever strategic thinking. Now, this was a classic risk-reward dilemma. The prize, a Lamborghini, wasn't even for the streamer. It was for their audience. Winning meant you got to create this epic, viral moment. But the risk? It was absolute. If you played and lost, your shot at that $1 million was gone, just like that. But here's the thing. The real challenge wasn't just counting in your head. It was trying to do that while dozens of other people are actively screaming fake times at you. It's been 2 minutes. You're at 9. It was just pure psychological warfare. But the smartest players, they found a genius workaround. They used comms. They had allies on the outside, people not even in the game, secretly tracking the real time and feeding them information. It was a brilliant way to completely bypass all the chaos. And get this strategy was so unbelievably precise that the win came down to just 5 frames of video. That's a tiny fraction of a second. It's incredible proof that inside this cube, exploiting a clever loophole could be way more powerful than any other skill. Okay, the next phase of the competition was an absolute masterstroke. It literally split the room in two and forced every single person left to make this critical decision about who they really are. The choice was a fundamental one about your own identity. Are you going to bet on your digital skills, or are you going to bet on your physical abilities? It was this moment of intense self-assessment under incredible pressure. Do you stick with what made you famous, or do you gamble on a hidden talent? So if you chose the athlete's path, you found yourself in this super intense penalty shootout against a notoriously energetic goalie. Even a legendary Fortnite pro like Nick30, someone you'd expect to see in the gamer room, had to try his luck out on the soccer field. Meanwhile, the gamers were facing off in their natural habitat, a massive Fortnite battle royale. For a lot of them, this was the very game that launched their careers. In here, it all came down to pure mechanical skill, game sense, and survival instincts. But then, in a twist that sent shockwaves through the entire cube, Tfue, one of the most famous and skilled Fortnite players on the planet, was eliminated. It was just a stunning upset that proved one thing loud and clear:
Inside this cube, your reputation meant absolutely nothing.
And just when everyone thought they finally understood the rules of the game, MrBeast flips the script again. With only 20 streamers left, this brutal individual competition suddenly became a team sport. This challenge was a complete curveball. It wasn't about popularity or taking risks or your skills as a solo player. Now it was all about short-term memory, quick communication, and how well you could coordinate as a group under extreme pressure. And this right here was the final genius twist. After hours and hours of every person for themselves, your survival was now completely dependent on your teammates. You had to trust their memory just as much as your own, because one person's tiny mistake could get your entire team eliminated. This entire spectacle was a masterclass in psychological game design. It was constantly changing the rules to test popularity, nerve, identity, and finally teamwork. It kept everyone completely off balance, and it leaves us with this one fascinating final question. In a game that is built for chaos, is the winner truly determined by skill, by strategy, or is it just pure dumb luck?